Good morning, everyone. This is Royce Miller. Come back at you with yet another Let's Try. It is Christmas, and it is also my 3,000 subscriber special. Oh my god. 3,000 people. Good lord. Um, and because it is such a special occasion, I made the food I'm about to eat. For me, it was a couple hours ago. For you, it was yesterday. Today on the docket, we have Julia Child's Boeuf Bourguignon, but I shall henceforth call it beef Burgundy. That is the American translation, well, the English translation, and I cannot speak French very well. So, or at all, really, but yeah. Anyway, I have been making this all day. Now, you all saw this part. Off camera, I roasted some pearl onions and mushrooms, and I didn't have enough liquid to make sauce, so I actually made my own pan sauce using the rest of the beef broth, the rest of the wine, and some grape jelly, as well as, the spices I used on the boeuf bourguignon. Beef burgundy, god damn it. I broke I broke my own promise. Anyway, let's try a bit of the pearl onions first. I've never had just whole pearl onions in a dish. It's weird. This is definitely some Gilded Age French cookery. That was actually very good. Now, Julia roasted hers, cooked her mushrooms and onions in a pan. I just roasted them in the oven after I was done with the roast. And again, I cheat a lot on this. I will say though, the pan sauce was a very spur of the moment idea, and it came out way better than I thought it would. But y'all aren't here to watch me eat veggies. Well, you kind of are, but we're on to the main event. So here's why I didn't end up with a lot of liquid. I added too much flour. It turned the stew into a breading. A very soupy breading. And there's always room for error in this stuff. But it's really good. So I'm not complaining. We gotta get a bite with all the fixings on it, so let's see, let's get... Get on there, you bastard. How are you supposed to eat pearl onions? Goddamn. The onions in the stew are completely cooked down. The carrots are barely there, and they are still good, but the beef is fork tender. No, it's not fork tender. It's baby food tender. It is just melt in your mouth. It's so good. Anyway, let's swivel it a bit in the sauce and... This is literally the best thing I've ever made. Yeah, I messed up. That's the nature of the beast. But it doesn't matter because what is on the plate is good. I don't think Julia Child would have minded. She would have probably been like, oh, it's not exactly beef bourguignon, but I think we can, I still enjoy it. Also, I made the sauce without a roux, which was a mistake. Because it took way too long to thicken. And then I mounted it with butter, as I'm sure Ms. Child would have. French cookery is a lot of butter. That is so good. Anyway. We must be fancy. Pinky's out. As y'all know, I'm still sick, so I'm still chugging water like a Finn shoving his face into the water trough. Speaking of how I'm still kind of sick, I'm gonna pause for a moment. I'm back. Alrighty. Now we are back to this. Oh. I gotta try to get the pan sauce more mixed in with the stew meat. Or I don't know what to call it at this point. That is good. That's a good hearty meal. I also didn't mix it as well as I should have while it was cooking. I may have had to mix in the tomato paste still a little bit after I pulled it out after the 3 hours. Anyway, I promised this would also be a Q&A, so here they are. From Rochester. He wants to know what they want to know, I should say. They remember me talking a bit about my writing. They want to know what I worked on and stuff I want to write. So, stuff that I worked on that is actually, available is was available. Excuse me. Sorry, the water. I should say this is very acidic with the wine and the broth and everything, and the fat. So I think I already am starting to get a little indigestion from it. It's a very rich meal. Oh my gosh. Anyway. What have I worked on? Okay. So, I think the most famous thing is obviously excuse me, I pitched Arkham Escape to DC Universe, which was a DC streaming app before they got merged with HBO. The app went under and they got put onto HBO. I think you can still read comics on DC Universe though. That's where Harley Quinn actually originally aired. But they were doing this contest where they wanted you to pitch reality shows to them. And my pitch was for a reality show set in Arkham Asylum where contestants would take the role. It was a game show, obviously. Contestants would take the roles of, the henchmen to various criminals, and their goal would be to try to, navigate their way out. It would be kind of like a combination of, Wipeout, Fear Factor, Legend of the Hidden Temple was a big thing. Was a big inspiration. And I came up with so much stuff for it, too. And I made it to finals. I was going to go to pilot. But COVID laid those plans to waste. Sad face. You can watch all about that in a video I posted last year or so. And then recently, I was the editor for a fanzine dedicated to two Owl House characters. It was called Heartstrings, a Rada fanzine. Basically, Heartstrings are basically, it's about a musician character and a witch character who are like, former lovers who kind of rekindle their relationship during a weird, like, strenuous time in their lives. And this was a lot of their stuff, about their previous relationship, about their new relationship, about their relationship post series, etc. I love the artwork for it. I love the writing for it. I edited the writing for it. I feel really proud of that. I even helped title one of the things, and tried desperately to get him some art because it was it was because like it was a body swap one, and so I suggested titling it "Oops I Oops I'm in my crush's body," and they loved that because I'm a bit of a Todd Strasser fan. I was a Todd Strasser fan as a kid. I read the or no help help I'm stuck in my crush's body. I'm a fan of that. I was a fan of that as a kid, and um, Todd Strasser's kid, and I thought like, oh, that'd be cute for it too, since it's a body swap story. Now I will say this is of course non-canonical stuff. These aren't officially affiliated with the Owl House property. Yeah, it's just a fanzine. And then I have completed two books: a kid's book or a kid's novella, and a serious work of fiction that I now would disown immensely because it's not that good. Um, the kids book was "Oops, I spooked a werewolf," which is exactly that kind of is based on the based on very much on stuff like Todd Strasser and R.L. Stine. Like, it's sort of a send up of that kind of genre. I am actually a little proud of it. Uh, it stars a facsimile of my brother, and basically he's kind of. I modeled his character after my brother, but he kind of has my interests because he's like into monsters and stuff, and but he has my brother's like mischievous streak. And so like one night he jumps out at someone who he thinks is his brother, only to see like in the moonlight a giant furry monster and assumes it's a werewolf. But he scares it away because he jumps out at it, which is one of like it's kind of what you should do with like a black bear and stuff is make a lot of noise, make yourself bigger. Um, and so the book is kind of this like it's half who done it, half like not psychological, but kind of the whimsy of, oh, is it in his imagination or is there actually a werewolf? Um, and then of course, if there is a werewolf, then who is the werewolf? Uh, I've also done a couple short stories. The Black Forest incident, which is not my best work. It's pretty lame. Uh, I think the Black Forest occurrence, maybe. Um, the name is partially based on an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, where a Confederate spy is hung. And similarly to that, it stars some very bad people. Basically, it's about Nazis getting ripped apart by fantasy creatures, by Grimm's fairy tale creatures. They chase a Jewish girl into the Black Forest. They wander into like this vale full of the Grimm's fairy tales. Some of the men eat apples and fall into the permanent sleep. Some of them are killed by a bridge troll. Some of them are turned into donkeys by donkey cabbage. Until finally it's just the commanding officer and his the corporal who immediately spotted like, oh no, this is, like, oh, this is bad, a more human character who doesn't maybe necessarily agree with the politics around him. But and then so finally they corner the Jewish girl, but she manages to get away at last moment. And I wanted to, and I actually was swapping between two endings in my head. The ending that I went with was that the whole way they were being pursued by howls, and finally they see the big bad wolf, just covered in scars from all of his encounters. The scar down his chest from where the goat mom cut him open to get her kids out, the scar across his gut where the woodsman cut him open to free Red Riding Hood and her grandma. A burnt, like third degree burns on his tail where he fell into the Three Little Pigs' fire. And like the size of a dire wolf, just like a massive monster. And the commanding officer looks at his Luger; it's out of bullets. And he looks to the corporal who's with him, who's got one bullet left in his Luger. And the corporal looks at him, or looks at the commanding officer, looks at the wolf, and just shoots himself, leaving just the wolf and the commanding officer, who now just has to take out his Bowie knife, and like that's where it ends. Very much a morality story where, like, you don't have to feel bad for them because they're Nazis. They are the literal definition of evil. And then the second ending was that they both end up getting trapped by the witch in her gingerbread house. And so the commanding officer is being fattened up while the corporal dutifully follows the witch's orders because he's just following orders. Which is the more ironic twist, but I feel like it's a little goofy. And then the other short story I did that I'm much more proud of was I call it Technical Difficulties, and it's about a female detective on board this giant pillar, a sea crawler, I guess I'd call it, where it's a giant pillar that's a giant like sea-based pillar, and the bottom goes across the ocean floor, while the top sits above sea level with an artificial island on top. I've done some drawings. I've done some concept drawings of it that I might try to find and showcase maybe, but I called it the Amphitrite 01. And the whole purpose of it is that it's a weapons development firm that exists outside of that exists in international waters. The idea is that, there is no law there except the corporations. Sorry, it's getting cold, so I kind of gotta eat it too. Anyway, so she's investigating a murder, and the only witness is a maintenance android. But he didn't actually see the murder. I put a lot of my blood, sweat, and tears into that one because, like, a lot of my own, like, personal fears about, like, my job were in that one because, like, it's about a woman. Well, it's about a person who's in this building that's falling apart around her. Similar to my last hotel job. what I want to work on. Honestly, like, oh, hold on a second. I'm back. Honestly, like, what I really want to work on is my pilot. Like, I want to have a full animated series, or even live action series, if I could get the budget for it. And it would cover the same thing that my original adult novel covered, but better. And like, I will say, like, none of my stuff is published. This is all just stuff that I've worked on, or the novels and short stories are just stuff I've completed technically, not like published or anything. Um, anyway, but the thing I want to do is write a story about my, like, I have this idea for a character. She is a no nonsense, very empathetic uh, toward her fellow man, social worker who discovers one day that fantasy and reality, that like fantasy exists, and then she has to make a decision because she can either keep fantasy and reality separated or which would be good for her, but it would be at the cost of her son, who saw through the cracks in reality once and is now constantly like persecuted for it by, the people who exist in reality. And part of it, like, I worry that there's kind of this like almost not anti-logicness to it, but well, yeah, kind of that. Because the idea is a woman who has believed one thing her entire life finds out that it is all a lie. That reality as she knows it is a lie. And it's kind of based on my own transition of politics, because like I was raised Republican. I was very conservative until I graduated high school. And then slowly I discovered more and more like, oh no. Oh no. Everything I've been raised to believe is a lie. And the main character is partially based off my mom, who is a very logic-driven woman, but still a conservative for some baffling reason. Um, and so this is me just kind of imagining, like, what would it take to change her perspective? I will say, though, and like, part of why it would be bad for her to let fantasy and reality merge is because she gets afflicted with a curse where she becomes the host to a bestial spirit that turns her into a winged werewolf. You'll notice I have a recurring theme. Like, I like werewolves. They're cool, okay? Also, I like to joke about, like, I like to joke about, being like a den mom, kind of. Other ideas I've had that I would love to make, if I got to work for DC again, I'd want to I had this idea where Joker finally bites off more than he can chew. He kills the husband of a witch, of like a not a witch, but like a Greek a Greek priestess of some sort, who prays to Nemesis, the goddess of vengeance, to smite Joker. And so Nemesis comes after him. Batman tries to defend him, but gets his shit wrecked. He has to call in someone he never calls in. And Superman just, like, comes and immediately, like, tosses Nemesis out of the way. But, like, here's the thing, though. Neither of them can kill her. She's a deity. Like, she is beyond their power. She is beyond Bruce's power as a mortal. She is even beyond Clark's power as a metahuman. There is only one person who Joker can turn to. And she's only helping him as a favor to Bruce. So while Batman recovers, like, just all the broken bones in the Batcave, Joker is taken into what is ostensibly protective custody by Wonder Woman. And I wanted to have it be this very, like, introspective, have it be half a goofy movie and half, like, a kind of like an introspection into Joker's own thoughts on the world. Like, I want it like the comic book covers would have Diana and Joker riding a roller coaster. Joker, like, and Diana and Wonder Woman, like, woo. And then, of course, you could do a ton of, crossovers in that. Like, what if Nemesis promised, like, a divine favor to whoever killed Joker? Then you could get characters like Lobo or Deathstroke in. Characters who could go toe to toe with Wonder Woman. And I also had this idea for Joker's origin story where we find out that he's actually Amadeus Arkham, the founder of Arkham Asylum. And Ra's al Ghul experimented on him using the Lazarus serum. And, like, the reason his personality keeps changing is because every time he dies, he comes back a little bit different, sort of like the Doctor Who's regeneration. And that's also why he feels so at home in Arkham Asylum. It's literally his home. And Bruce would discover it by finding out that he's got, like, a DNA connection to Joker. And that it's because that he's related to Joker through his mom's side, the Arkham side. At least, like, if we're going off Earth 2 stuff. Apparently all Batman's mom being in Arkham is from Earth 2. Outside of that, I don't know. I get ideas for stuff I want to write all the time. Like, one of the big things in my mind is a big crossover where, like, I just want to cross over a bunch of books that I liked as a kid. Anyway, I spent way too long on that question. Let's move on. Slapwagons. Wants to know my thoughts on the Game Awards, Hideo Kojima and Jordan Peele's new game, and any games I'm looking forward to. Well, I didn't see the Game Awards. I meant to. I thought a person I watched was gonna do, like, a Let's Watch of it, like a live stream of it with us, but they never did. And but before this, I did watch the Jordan Peele trailer. I don't know what kind of game it's gonna be. That said, what games am I looking forward to? Well, I've got RoboCop over there. I got my cousin and I a PS5 to share, and he got to play Spider-Man. I wanted it to try RoboCop. I may also try Dead Space as well. But what else is there? I mean, like, none of the new games have been really appealing to me. I may get Street Fighter 6 just because I really want Yor from Spy Family. I have no opinions on the Game Awards. As for Jordan Peele and Hideo Kojima's new game, it looks weird. I don't know what it's about. I'd wait for a gameplay trailer before I made a decision on it because right now it looks like a tech demo where they're just trying to fully render people's faces. Miguel wants to know my top 5 favorite dishes. I think number 1 would probably be my mom's mushroom steak and gravy. Number 2 would be her uh, steak in mushroom gravy, I should say. Number 2 would be her beef stroganoff. Number 3, oh man, this might actually be number 1, but it's a rarity. It would be number 1 if it were more of a recurrence, but because it's too expensive to make more than a couple times, maybe once or twice a year. My dad made this rack of lamb that was so good. It was literally the best thing I'd ever eaten. And he made a gravy for it with pate and truffle butter. It was so good. That's 3. What are the other 2? My Grandma Cindy's potato pancakes, and my Grandma Nancy, or my Grandma Nancy's, blue cheese crepes. What she does is she thins out a normal like Bisquick type batter to make the crepes, and then she puts a little blue cheese or goat cheese or something like that in them. It's so good, man. I love it to death. So yeah, those are my top 5 dishes. As you can see, I'm a big fan of savory food. Rayburner wanted me to talk about the current state of the world. He had mentioned, like, if I thought our capitalist system could continue onward, and it's like, oh Lord, you're asking me some weird questions that's going to get me in trouble with the people who follow me who are like, oh, talk about food, don't talk about politics, meh. Honestly, it's 40 degrees right now in the middle of in December. The world is bad. The world is bad right now. I don't know what to tell you. Like, find solace where you can. Um, I know people don't like me saying capitalism bad, but I'm not saying like jump to China, because like here's the thing, China's not actually communist. Are they a bunch of hippies living in the woods? No. They do a lot of profiteering. um, that said, I think we need more. If what the U.S. needs right now is a system with a more firm social net. Something more like Sweden or Switzerland or even Canada. Like, there are places out there that aren't North Korea or China that have socialist systems in place and are doing very well. You'll notice there's not a lot of Swedish doctors here. because like one of my one of my parents' biggest arguments against like communism or whatever, I'm like why America's so good is like, well, look at all the doctors we get from other countries, because a lot of Hindu doctors, a lot of like, a lot of like Asian doctors, stuff like that, and it's like, it's hard to comment on that stuff. And then Meep MEAEP wants to know what my red flags are. Okay, so here's the first red flag you need to know about me. If I'm not responsive, that means you have about 2 seconds to leave me alone before I start getting mean. No, but what red flags do I look for? I'm trying to think, like, what kind of red flags do you mean? You mean like in a partner? I've never dated. Do you mean in like a person, like in a person in general? Usually, if they move a lot, like not like how I kind of like shift around because I'm just moving from one cheek to the next. There's this one guy who's at my current job who is a complete and total loser. The way I described him was if Jim Varney were a pedophile. Uh, he looks creepy. He looks like a drug addict, and he talks like a bumpkin. He is an idiot too. I don't like him. I don't like stupid people, as it turns out. Like, I know I should be nicer to them, but it's like I have better things to do than to help you. Leave me alone. And that's unfair, but it's hard. Okay, it's hard for me to be it's hard for me to be the bigger person sometimes, even though I'm usually bigger than everyone else in the room. Um, like it's hard to describe the red flags you look for as a hotel worker because like you are so trained to spot them. Not by your bosses or anything, but like just through experience. You know when a person is either like a drug addict or a homeless person. Well, I shouldn't say homeless person, but I do work in a hotel. Homeless people are kind of like, well, why are you here? Um, the biggest thing I can say is vibes. If they give you bad vibes, don't go near them. Like your body is trained to recognize signals. You have instincts about body language and eye contact and all this other stuff. It's up to you to learn to read those signals and act accordingly. If it's up to you to learn to look at me and see, oh, Royce wants to be left alone now. Um, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be mean about that. It's just so I do think that sometimes about the people. There are people who will not leave you alone no matter how hard you try. I think that's one of the big things. If they engage conversation with you and don't let you go, they're a bad person. They are unequivocally a bad person. They want something from you and they will not let you go until they get it. I had a dude stop me outside Walgreens when I was going to pick up some decongestant. And he was like, I want to show you something. And took out like a Lego battle droid to give me. And he says, I'm trying to get back to Nebraska. And then he shows me his watch and his ring and says, these are what angels wear. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Leave me alone. I didn't say that, but I wanted to. Okay, anyway. GTA 6 thoughts. America is beyond parody at this point. Literally everything in the GTA 6 trailer, almost everything in it is taken from actual, like, security camera footage and, like, Instagram videos and stuff from Florida because they're going back to Vice City for GTA 6. That said, I like GTA 5 a lot. I like Red Dead 1 a lot. Red Dead 2 was okay. Um, Rockstar is in a weird position now where they can either make everyone where they've either made everyone an asshole, like in GTA 5, to kind of like make you feel okay killing them, or they make everyone normal, like in Red Dead 2, but you feel like an asshole for killing them, and also it's boring as shit because cinematic storytelling gameplay. There has to be a decent crossroads between the two where it's exaggerated, but the characters are still likable. I hope they find that. And I also hope that they don't force their employees to go through crunch time. And I also hope that they don't use AI assisted graphic design because we all saw how that worked out with the GTA remaster. Jay don't know. Oh no, that was the guy. Miguel wants to know my position at work. I'm technically the front office manager, but I don't know if I'm actually still the front office manager. I'm working night audit currently, and I think I may stick with it. Hopefully, they still keep me at my current rate of pay, but who knows? Dr. Dan wants to know if I've been to Atumwa. I don't think I have. And who my favorite Oz character is. He said his was Scarecrow, mine is Oz Scarecrow. I think he's got the best song of all the, like, If Only I Had a songs. I like his design. I like his physical comedy, how he like bounces around and gets this literal stuffing knocked out of him. Uh, I've never actually seen Return to Oz. That's the version of the Scarecrow in that is called like Jack Pumpkinhead or something. Um, there's a lot of interesting stuff about Oz too, like Ozma, the Princess of Oz, was cursed to be a boy by someone, and basically to hide her from her birthright, right? It's interesting stuff. And then CK Piano, but Scarecrow's still my favorite. Yeah. Anyway, CK Piano wants to know my opinion on Lady Gaga. The older I get, the more I like her. Like, I know everyone says the pop music. It's a cliche to think that the pop music you grew up with is the best, but I was in high school when her biggest albums came out, and they are still amazing. Okay, Bad Romance may be one of the greatest pop songs of all time. It would probably go Video Killed the Radio Star. It would probably go. It would probably go Beat It, Bad Romance, Video Killed the Radio Star. Like the three most important pop songs of all time. I guess there's also a story about a girl, but yeah. I was never into like the more modern pop. Um, she's a great singer. She's even a good actress, from what I've heard. I haven't seen any of her stuff. Oh, is my lip bleeding? It's bleeding. Ah, dang it. Anyway, that was the last of the questions, and I did finish my meal. I suppose I should wrap up now. Thank you. All of you have been so amazing. There's nothing I can do to repay you for all you've done for me. Like, you guys I wish I could. I want to branch out into stuff that's not food. But I know you guys prefer me eating food. And the only compromise I can offer is I'll still eat a little bit of food, but I would prefer to step away from that more. But I owe you the world. You want the moon? I'll get you the moon. Um, excuse me. It's like 3,000 people. That's. I had 500 kids in my school total. So that's 6 times. All right? Yeah, that's 6 times as many people as I went to school with. It's nuts, man. I've lived in towns with less population than the people who follow me, and it's nuts. It's hard not to let that go to your head too. I've had to really try to keep myself in check. Switching jobs really did that to me, though. Like, the imposter syndrome is real. And I'll be honest, part of me wants to give up on working and try to make this work. Like, move in with my dad and just like give him my monthly stipend of YouTube money as payment as rent and try to make this work. But that's stupid. I need to keep my job. Anyway, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Now, for the love of God, go spend some time with your family. Merry Christmas, everyone. This is Royce Miller. I'm outie. Have a happy new year.